In 2011, Copenhagen experienced a 1,000-year event. It rained like seldom before, it flooded streets and homes and left damages of more than 800 million euros. The years after, Copenhagen was exposed again and again to this extreme rainfall events, what put climate adaptation very much on the map of the city's urban planners. And they developed a plan. Copenhagen aimed to become a sponge city. Look at this behind me. That's the first climate park in Copenhagen. And it was made together with the local community and urban planners to both kind of create a space that improves the resilience after the heavy floods in 2011. But then on the other hand, it's also something like a space that kind of improves life quality, that is like a nice space in the city. And when you look around, it's like green infrastructure seems to be a big part of the solution. But what is a sponge city? Simply put, the goal of a sponge city is simple. Mimic the natural processes of nature to help store and delay water as much as possible before it gets into the sewage system. The more a city can do that with parks and gardens and ponds and green roofs and any other means, the less it has to expend costly infrastructure like pipes, stormwater drains, pumps. But this is a massive investment, and it relies on more than 300 public spaces to transform, resources that other cities lack. So the question is, how does climate adaptation in other parts of the world look like? And can it even compare? But for this, we take a visit to Kenya to see it firsthand. In spring 24, Nairobi experienced some of the most severe floods to date, costing hundreds of people's lives and destroying homes and livelihoods of thousands.
Sijawahi kuona disaster kama hii. Hii ilikuwa tu mvua, lakini vile ilikuwa inaendelea na vile hii mto ilikuwa maji ilikuwa inaoverlap. Ikaoverlap mpaka ikasuia watu wengine kwenye manyumba. Sasa itabidi vijana waingie katikati, watembee kwa kila nyumba, waangalie ni nani yako ndani.
But when you look at the ranking of sponge cities, you find something very interesting. Nairobi ranks second on this global list, only topped by Auckland in New Zealand. So the question is, why didn't it protect people? And were the floods just so severe, or are there other things at play here? It turns out that the communities most affected by the floods were the informal settlements along the Nairobi River. Those communities are often the most vulnerable to climate risk due to their location, often in low-lying areas, flood-prone areas. The density of the built environment is very high. The lack of space, the lack of resources and infrastructure, to name just a few, are factors. They are often excluded from climate adaptation efforts on the city level because of their informal status, and they lack a voice in the planning process. So the question is, how can communities adapt when they have neither the funds nor the space? For this I talked to Fred Okinda from Comp Green Solutions.
The flooding used to affect so many families along the Nairobi River, because in this the floods were reaching up to that point. So tell me, when there's some structures along the river and there's no gabions constructed at that point, the floods will just come and swept away the houses, and the families, some families will lose their families because of the floodings.
The team at Comp Green Solutions has been building their park for years, helping other youth groups in the process also to create their own parks, And what started as like a simple transformation of like an old dump site for the community to create a safe and inclusive space, more and more also became a testing ground for climate adaptation. Fred showed me some of the few solutions that they are using to protect the park and also the community close by.
You see, when we were transforming here it was also a dump site, and the first trees we planted was swept away by the flood, by the swelling river. But we decided to install these gabions to reduce the heavy floods coming from the river when it falls. We have planted so many bamboos along the river, so it helps to purify and clean the water. In this area, you see we have planted so many trees. The main important issue to plant the trees is to provide shades.
When you look at this graphic, what Comp Green is doing is actually quite a complex system to first keep the water out, but then, if that is not enough, to delay it as much as possible. So when the floods hit in spring 24, parts of the park were flooded and destroyed, pathways swept away, but the park also absorbed a lot of the water and protected parts of the community from much worse. And while the destruction of the floods was massive, these are pockets of hope in this chaos. And there's very much to learn from this community-led effort to adapt to the risk of climate change.
The environment kits, and
after the floods, the community was tasked to rebuild the park. And it again played an important role for the community. And it becomes clear that green spaces in cities do more than just being a measure to protect against floodings. They play a multi-purpose role. They create space in informal settlements where there often isn't any. They make people come together. Studies have shown that green spaces have a positive effect on mental health. The heat during heat waves, another effect of the changing climate, is a fair bit reduced in green spaces. Air quality is much better. All of what benefits the well-being of the people in the community. So here in Copenhagen they have like a term for that. It's basically called hedonistic sustainability, and the idea is that sustainability should be about more than just sustainability. For people to really buy into it, it should be joyful, it should be improved quality of life, and that's exactly what they do at a space like this at the climate park here. It's basically like a space that both kind of improves like the city's resilience by a lot, but at the same time it's also a space that is like a joy to use, that improves quality of life for people here to hang out, to have like a space to relax, to go with their dogs, things like that. So here you can really see it in action. But in informal settlements, it's about even more than this. Public spaces pose like an opportunity for economic activities, building ideas with your peers, creating community cohesion, having a safe space to come and find relief from the daily stressors of the hard life in the settlements. A launchpad for the changes that people actually want to see in their community. And like this, what started as like a simple crisis response can turn into opportunities and something that goes way beyond adaptation. A transformation, a potential for a form of adaptive thriving. It is obvious that life in informal settlements is complex and difficult. The lack of support makes long-term holistic solutions almost impossible. Many people face uncertainty on a daily basis. They are vulnerable to many factors they can't control, and the lack of support from the government and local authorities is a thing in itself. In that way, the efforts being taken in Copenhagen are hard to compare to the ones in the informal settlements. But the community-led efforts can function as an inspiration for what can be done when you and your community come together. And that even small green spaces and guerrilla gardens seem to be an effective localized tool in the puzzle of making our cities more resilient to climate change, no matter if that's in Nairobi or Copenhagen.